talk a little bit about your planning document that you use?
Okay, so our planning document we use is the lesson plan thinking map. The first thing we consider when we're planning is exactly what we want the students to do. And this comes from the standards. Okay, then we look at the learning activity, the teaching and learning activity that will enable students to get the standard that we have chosen. Whether it is the whole group instruction or whether it is a video, which leads to the students, what assessment we want to either it's an ongoing assessment or at the end, and whether we want to monitor as they go on by checking. We have a clipboard checking out what students do, or we have a common assessment at the end. From that common assessment, what we do is identify the standards the students are low in, and this will enable us to break them up in whether it is intervention or whether it is extension activities.
Okay. And then as you're deciding those places to put the students, how do you plan using the data that you have for interventions?
So kind of like Diane said, we do make a common assessment and we use that throughout all of 6th grade math. And those assessments that we make are standards based, so each question is aligned to one of the specific fundamental standards that we decide the kids need to know at the beginning when we're planning the unit. And then after we go through those grades, we'll go through it all together and see what standards a lot of students got correct, a majority of them got correct, or we'll see on the other side what students didn't get right or what a majority of the students got wrong. And then we'll go back and decide, okay, was it enough students to reteach that to the whole class? Or can we just pull small groups? Was it just a few students? If so, we can pull those small groups during intervention and just reteach to that specific group. If there are really high ones, we can have them in a separate group doing the extension activity during intervention.
Great. Okay.
Right, and so when we're monitoring like throughout the class, and we have that nice 30 minutes of built-in intervention time, so then we kind of group them based on their skills for that day, if we're just like learning like a new concept or something.
So it's evolving and changing then as the concepts. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the groups will change, and then we'll have our tier 2 group, which will be like the reteaching. Usually I'm doing the reteaching, and then the other group, which is for Alex, so the tier 3 students, and then the students that are advancing.
Okay. So that kind of led into the other question that I was going to ask you guys, which was, how do you organize the students for your intervention period? So part of your planning is the organization of the kids and deciding what activities go with those. Am I getting that right?
Yes, so we monitor them throughout the period, and Diane touched on a little bit, we do have a clipboard, and so throughout that one period we'll go through and just kind of based on what we're observing and the questions they're asking and the work they're doing on their own, do we think they're going to be more of a tier 2 student that needs a little bit of extra help with the materials? Do we think they're tier 1, they've really got it, they can go on to the extension piece, or do we think they're tier 3, they need help with those basic fundamental skills? Okay. So once we get that information on that clipboard, we're able to, about 5 minutes before the actual class period ends and the kids leave, because then they'll go to lunch and come back for intervention.
Okay.
So about 5 minutes before that period ends, we will stop the lesson, we'll stop the period, we group those kids then, because it's at the end of the period.
Okay.
So we tell them, okay, these 5 students, you're gonna be over here. If they need to retake any tests or quizzes, if they need to make up any work, if they're working on something for another class, they're in one group. If they're a tier 3 student and they're on that program, Alex, and they're working on the basic fundamental skills, they are placed in another group. We've got our tier 2 in another group. So then when they do come back from lunch and they're getting back, they know exactly where to go, they know which group to go to. It's organized and it's not chaotic when they come back from lunch. Great. So my guys on this side, you guys are going to be turning to page 22. And you may or may not have a few of them done already, but what I want you to do is work together with whoever's sitting next to you and try, if you were stuck on one maybe, or if you want to move forward together, I want you all working together to solve those problems, okay? So if you get stuck on one, ask the person next to you, maybe they got it. Alright? Not gonna Alright, so we're gonna try to go walk in together. There's some of you are already in it, but you're gonna be going to alex.com. Okay, so you're gonna go to Alex. If you need your username, let me know. Maybe you're gonna take your username. And then log in and do mine. Okay, what are we doing? Okay, so what are we paying? And you're gonna go to mine.
You were playing
Alright,
what?
so what do you think? Go to that link. Good. Did you guys hear that? Equal sign. So for the first one, hit enter. An equation, the math, centralized between and okay. So when did you read that?
That's great. Because actually, we were thinking about where do you get some of the extra resources from and those sort of things.
In Open Up, we have illustrated map, we have an actual folder with tier 2 resources, and it's based, you have activities for each standard. So it's easy for us to just, okay, which standard we are working on, then we could choose those set of resources. It has a video, they have to listen to the video, and they will not be able to take the quiz until they're finished with the video.
Oh, okay. So Illustrative Math already has some of that already built in for your
Yes,
your
and we
tutor.
have it on the canvas, we have it on canvas,
Okay.
so Ben put it last year, so it's on the canvas. So all we have to do is make sure that we see which standard is aligned and which activity or we want them to do.
Okay, great. So just successes and that sort of thing. What kind of things have you been finding that have worked for the intervention? What things have you done?
So just organizing the students, I think, has really helped, so they kind of know where they're going and what to expect during intervention.
Okay.
Some things that haven't really worked is kind of just letting them choose if they, you know, if we ask them like, oh, do you have something for another class, or
Okay.
you know, like having them decide. You know, we've kind of seen that it's been a little bit more unstructured.
Okay.
So it's definitely helped for us grouping those students and then kind of having those groups already in place, so when they come back from lunch, they know what they're doing.
Got you. That would make sense.
Yeah, and it helps us also because we know which students we are targeting. Instead of just, okay, just give it to everybody. So we
Right.
know which students we are targeting
Right.
and we could follow them, we could see their progress.
That's great.
And the ones that are all, if there's kids all on the computers on Alex, that group is gonna be more quiet. So they're all surrounded by, you know, a group of quiet kids that are working on the same thing.
Right.
If they're working on the extension piece and they're getting it and they're moving forward, but they're stuck with something, they can talk to the other students around them because they're all around the same level,
Okay.
they're all working on the same thing. So it works when you specifically group them together and they're working on a similar assignment.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Sounds awesome. Thank you.